Greetings, citizens! You're now trapped in the Nerd Cage with your hosts Marq and Jay. We hope you have a smashing good time.
Yes, hello and welcome. That's right, you're trapped in Nerd Cage Live. This ain't just a reaction show, but a debate show and a live discussion on everything that makes people like you and I tick. So thank you for joining us tonight. I am your co-host, Jay St. G, coming to you live from Syracuse, New York. And always with me, my man, the Fiend from Louisville, Mark Withers. What's shaking, boss?
Hey, what's going on, man? Super excited to be here as usual. And man, do we have an exciting and fun show planned for you guys today. We decided that we're going to dedicate this episode to the 10th anniversary of one of my favorite films, a movie that I like to consider the Citizen Kane of nerd culture movies. And I'm talking about the one, the only Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yes, sir. You are perfectly right. This is like the embodiment of nerd culture in this show because there are video game reference. It's a graphic novel, and it's a fantastic film with a fantastic cast. So this perfectly fits what this channel is all about.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And I don't think that there has been a movie even before or since that has successfully used in the same way their use of transmedia narrative. What I mean by that is that they sort of mix all of these different things: video games, comic books, anime, martial arts, garage band music. I mean, and they do it in such a way that it's just perfectly put together. I mean, it's a nerd's wet dream, if you will. And so
damn Skippy.
Right. And so, while I'm a little bit embarrassed that I didn't get on that train earlier and see it in theaters when it was out. I mean, when I finally did get around to seeing it, I think, a year after it was released, I saw it on cable and I was just blown away by it. It like instantly became one of my favorite movies.
It still holds up. The special
really
effects and the story still hold up. I think this movie is going to age well for decades to come. It really will, for what they were going for.
I agree, and it introduced us to so many people who were unknown at the time that eventually just blew up and are now huge stars. Like if you look at that cast, it's now what you would consider a stacked cast. I mean, you got Michael Cera, you got Brie Larson, Chris Evans, Brandon Routh, Aubrey Plaza. I mean, the names go on and on. I mean, it's amazing what they were able to do.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about first is the cast. As you just said, it's a stacked cast because at the time, most of these were unknown, but they all end up blowing up later on. So let's start with Brandon Routh. We all know him as Clark Kent, Superman, and Superman Returns.
Right.
He was basically the one that, I hate to say the word, replaced Christopher Reeve. He was the one that was filling in Christopher Reeve's shoes, which is the most daunting task. And we see him in a whole new light in this movie.
Right.
The vegan bass player, like, oh my gosh.
But he does it so well.
Yep, and it's hilarious. And he had the intimidation factor. Now, Chris Evans, now known as Captain America, but at the time, he was just fresh off the Fantastic Four movies. And listen, I've always been a fan of Chris Evans, even before Fantastic Four. I always thought he was a good actor. And in this movie, you could tell he's having fun. He's making fun of himself. Like, really, like, he takes it to the next level. Like, he's really out there to play, like, this action star, like, Johnny Cage type character of an actor. And he's exaggerated, and it's funny.
Yeah. If you look back at if you look back at some of the other movies in his career, it's a little bit closer to like the roles that he was playing up to that point before Captain America. It's just now that, we think of him as like the leader of the Avengers, but you know what I mean? Like looking back at it, like it's kind of like, okay, well that was kind of like his style back then, but it's hard for us to remember that knowing the Chris Evans that we know now.
Yes, and then of course Mary Elizabeth Winstead, the main female lead in the movie. She is also now well known as Huntress now, and of course she's married to Ewan McGregor. So yeah, again, her career really blew up afterwards, and then we have now Michael Cera was just coming off of Superbad, fresh off of Superbad, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. So he was already typecast into that dweeb of a character. Well, the lovable loser, the dweeb.
Right.
But he was still part of that band, obviously, and it was really, it was cool in that band. And who else did we look at? Thomas Jane had a cameo as the vegan police. That was great. Fresh off The Punisher. I didn't even recognize him until I just rewatched the movie last night, and I finally picked up on that one. Again, Brie Larson, we all know she was an indie actress at the time, and of course now she's Captain Marvel.
Yeah, she was only 18 when she actually auditioned for that and got the part.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense because the timeline, yeah.
Right, I think something I was watching said that she was like the youngest cast member out of all of them.
It's just funny because Michael Cera clearly as the youngest one. Oh, yeah. The gay roommate, Macaulay Culkin's brother.
Yeah,
yes, Macaulay Culkin's brother, who was excellent and funny as hell. And then his and Andrew Kendricks was Scott Pilgrim's sister.
Right.
She's blown up now ever since Bridesmaids. Her career really took off. But at the time, she was an unknown. Like, right. I can't believe how, like I said, looking at the back of this movie and looking where the whole entire cast is now, it's just like, wow. Like, there's no way they would have gotten that cast together now.
Right, without paying significantly more.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any other big names I'm forgetting?
I mean, Jason Schwartzman. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. Even Bill Hader from Saturday Night Live. He did like all the voiceover parts.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's like a little known fact. So like the video game voice and like anything, any narration.
Oh, he said, no, you Scott Pilgrim, the power of love.
Right.
Okay. Oh
now
my God, it all makes sense
Mega
now.
Scott,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, a very sad cast. So again, this is probably not something we're going to see anytime soon. We're going to have all these casts together again. I don't think it's ever going to happen again. If you want the honest truth, because they've all blown up.
It's interesting to say that though, because recently they did a reunion where they did a Zoom meeting where they did a big table read of the film. And I watched the whole thing and I was completely captivated by it, even though there was no actual like visuals, no graphics or anything. But they did a really cool thing, which was like they did their best to sort of add in the sound effects and some of the, sort of homemade visuals or whatever. And that kind of like spiced it up and made it really interesting to watch. So I had a blast watching it.
Yeah, I missed the reunion. I mean, I did certainly hear about it. And that was kind of what triggered me. I'm like, Mark, we gotta do a 10th anniversary look back of this movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Now let's okay. So shifting gears a little bit here. So the movie flopped, unfortunately, and by no one's fault. It came out the same. Okay, maybe it was the studio's fault. It came out the same weekend as The Expendables.
Right.
And The Expendables we were all hyped for, and that's why this movie got overshadowed. Like, The Expendables was a huge box office hit, and then this movie was just buried and then just didn't catch fire. It became more of a cult movie. See, I ended up renting it right when it first came out because I've heard from my coworkers like, hey, this is a really good movie. I was a fan of the graphic novel. You really got to see it in a movie. So I ended up renting it at Blockbuster before they went under. Like I said, immediately the day it came out. So again, this is more of a cult movie now, and now it's, I'm sure it's streaming on Netflix. So for those who haven't seen it, golden opportunity. If you have Netflix, it is there. I'm glad Mark told me about it because I was just about to buy the movie. So he's like, wait, it's on Netflix. I'm like, oh, okay, great.
Right. And same here. Like I was only like marginally aware of the graphic novel, or the graphic novel series. There are actually 6 of them. I only like just barely knew about that. I hadn't had a chance to read any of it. And when I saw the trailer for the initial trailer for the film, it didn't give me any of the vibe of what the movie was actually about. It just kind of looked like a silly trailer. It didn't look like something that would pique my interest. So I had no desire to actually go into a theater and watch it. And it was only by accident. Like I was just scanning through channels, watching cable a few years back and happened to see it. And I fell in love with it like right away. I was like, why was this movie not bigger at the time? You know, like it's got everything that like a nerd like me would want.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, and then of course,
shout out to like all of, you know, Michael Cera and all of the evil exes that he had to fight. The martial arts that they did in that film, the fight choreography was fantastic. I only learned recently that they had been trained by Jackie Chan's stunt team, like by members of their
stunt team. I did not know that.
Yeah, and I guess one of the lead stuntmen from that team did all of the fight choreography, which is why like it all turned out so killer. You know, like who knew Michael Cera, like, you know, who knew Michael Cera could be like, you know, a fighter on that level. Like when I rewatched
it was mainly he had a stunt double though, and they kind of digitally added him in. Like, in fact, it's so funny. Shout out to Corridor Crew if you're not subscribed to that channel. They actually just they do like these, you know, special effects, you know, criticisms and stuntman criticisms, and they just did Scott Pilgrim recently. So they explained that like Michael Cera had a body double, but then when like the shots where he like was getting up off the ground or when he spun in towards the screen, that's when he came in. They digitally replaced the body double, so it made it so they did it so clean that you can't even tell that they're like in the same shot that it was two different people.
Yeah, I could not tell.
It's really impressive. Yeah, like I said, if you guys are not subscribed to the Corridor Crew, definitely check out that channel. They release content regularly about behind the looks at like special effects and stunt and fight choreography. So yeah, definitely check that out.
Right.
All right, I don't know, shift gears a little bit here. What makes this movie extra special to me, being a lifelong Nintendo fan, the video game references and sound effects that they directly pulled, starting right off the beginning, the very beginning of the movie, you hear that. That's from The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. The sound of the Triforce coming together in the opening title. That's from Zelda Link to the Past. Then on top of that, in the very beginning when they're talking about, oh, he's dating a high school girl, and then you hear da-na-na-na, that's like another Zelda sound effect.
Right.
Like I'm laughing so hard because I'm like, oh my god, anyone who hasn't played Zelda is not gonna get this.
Right.
And then to add on top of that, the music. There is one scene where he's dreaming about Ramona.
Right.
The music you hear in the background is the fairy fountain music from the Zelda games.
Oh wow.
So it's just like, so Nintendo definitely gave them the license to use their sound effects and music, and it's just so great because, like I said, these are games I still love to this day, and I grew up watching. So, you know,
also the names of the bands, like they were named after Nintendo games, like the Clash of Demon Head, and what was another one? Crash and the Boys is an old Nintendo.
Sex Bomb. You know what a bomb is, right?
Yeah, it's from Mario, right?
Yeah, the wind-up bomb from Mario.
That's what I mean. I mean, they just like took all of these little references and actually made a narrative out of it, which I just think is so brilliant. You know, like we really haven't seen anything like that. I mean, you could make the case for like Ready Player One, I guess, but it's still not, you know, wrapped up so neatly and so like perfectly as this movie was.
It's funny you mentioned Ready Player One because this movie came out before the book, didn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
So this movie came out in 2010. Well, 2010. When did Ready Player One come out?
Well, the book I think came out, if I'm not mistaken, it came out in 2014 or 2013.
Yeah, I want to say
2013 or 2014.
Right.
And then the movie came out a couple of years ago. Now they just announced the second book, Ready Player 2. The book is on its way. I think it's supposed to come out in the fall, if I'm not mistaken. I still have to read the first book, but I mean, I already seen the movie, so. But yeah, I mean, everybody's hyped about the book. Now it's like, all right, if there's a second book coming out, I can almost guarantee there's going to be a second movie.
Right.
It's almost guaranteed at this point. But yeah, like all this video game stuff that was thrown into a movie, this it predated Ready Player One, the book. So.
Right. And the comic series, the graphic novel, that was written back in 2004, I think. So I mean, even back then, and within the comic, you know, you get, you know, like you even get like a transmedia narrative there. You know what I mean? You're getting like the video game references, you're getting like American comic references, manga references.
Yeah.
And what I learned recently is that the film influenced the later comics, and the comics influenced the film. So there was like this nice crossover, because that series, that 6-volume series, hadn't been completed at the time that the film was made. So when they finished the film, they took elements, I think what's his name, Brian Lee O'Malley, who created the comic. He took elements from the film and then just sort of related that back into the subsequent comics, which I think
and then of course the video game came out right when the movie came out too. There was an indie game of Scott Pilgrim and it was done in like 8-bit style too.
Right.
What was it? 16-bit style? I don't remember. It was a 2D platforming game with a little bit of fighting in there, and so they had like a retro style game that came out with the movie to promote the movie. So that's pretty rad too. Yeah.
I also like really liked you mentioned the music before. Like you were talking about the video game music, but I actually like a lot of the actual music from the soundtrack. Yeah. Like it's not for everybody, but like I happen to be like a pretty big fan of like Canadian music from like the mid to late 2000s. Like I really like bands like Die Mannequin and Tegan and Sarah and things like that. And there's one band in there that I really love named Metric. And they did the song that the Clash at Demon Head performs in that one scene where Scott has to fight Brandon. So
Oh, okay, yeah, the bass battle.
Yeah, the bass battle. But I particularly like that one song a lot. That Black Sheep song. I really think that should have been a much bigger song. But that's just me.
Yeah, another thing too is I love the editing of this movie, and just for starters, since we kind of just already talked about the fights, I love the whole versus screen. Now listen, back in the day when I used to play Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, what always got you hyped when you selected your character and you're about to fight? The versus screen. The versus screen is always what got you hyped in any fighting game, and I love how this movie depicts that, where you see a little versus screen before they're about to clash.
Yes.
I love that. I love it, love it, love it.
I love the KO.
Yes, and the KO, yep. And the KO and then the coins. And
right.
It's like, oh, that's not enough points for me to catch the bus.
Yeah, it's like not even enough for me to get the bus.
Oh my God. It's just genius. Just genius. Props to Edgar Wright. Great cinematography, great editing. Even like the little things, like the pee bar, where he goes to piss and then you see like the pee bar drain down, and then like the little like the little like the labels there saying like so and so doesn't give a crap, or so and so high school girl, so and so 25 years old knows everybody, like all that little stuff. Yeah. All those little things is it's just so funny and creative. I mean, that really doesn't work in like any normal movie. It's funny. I mean, Suicide Squad tried that, but this movie perfected it long before Suicide Squad attempted that. So just these little things they pick up on, and they're just so clever and so funny. And again, the style, the way it's shot, the stylized action. I mean, as you pointed out, like the anime stuff. So when they're doing their charged up punch, and they got the anime.
Yeah, background. The lines that go behind them and everything.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
Oh God, it's just great. This is definitely one of the most charming movies ever made. And again, this movie's 10 years old and it still looks good. And I'm sure we're gonna look back at it again 10 years later. We're gonna watch it again. Like, wow, these special effects really hold up. All the references to the gaming, are so clever. So it's great. I feel like this is gonna be a timeless movie. And I think, again, we've said it before, it's just a damn shame that this didn't pick up steam, early on.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to see like a sequel or something like that to it. We kind of know the ending. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would have loved to see more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would have loved to see his adventures after the fact. But I'm just happy that we are able to go back and do this look back and kind of like revisit it and fall in love with it again, because it had been like a lot of years since I watched it. And I remember liking it or really being into it right away, but it's been so many years since I've actually watched it that when I took a second look at it a few days ago, I was floored all over again. I was just like, oh my God, just like the use of color and like just the comedy, the timing in it, the cast, like everything about it was perfect. Like it's one of these films that like it just ages well. So I think like the older it gets, the more you appreciate like what went into it and the end result. It's just, like you said, it's a shame that it wasn't more successful.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm not going to stand here and say it's a perfect movie. I do have some minor criticisms. Mainly, honestly, to me, the movie's so captivating, but I feel like the movie, I want to say it dips. I think it plateaus a little bit when we get to the end. I just feel like after the fight with, okay, now we're kind of going into spoiler territory, but when we get to the fight with the twins, and then the final fight, the final boss, I just think the final boss and the twins, to me, I think those particular scenes kind of fell flat to me a little bit, because I feel like the earlier fights, the Chris Evans fight, the Brandon Routh, the first fight with the emo dude, and then of course
Matthew Patel,
and then the ex-girlfriend, like those were all great, like, and those were comical, and even all scenes between them. But when we get to the last two fights, to me, I just feel like the finale. I guess the finale wasn't as good as the previous fights, in my opinion.
And I can understand that. I think the main reason for that is that those earlier fights had actually been scribed out in the graphic novel, like the first few volumes of the series had existed, and so that part of the story had been written, but the last couple of fights that hadn't Scott hadn't gotten to, boyfriends 5 through 7, exes 5 through 7. So they had to kind of cook up those parts of the story. And I know particularly with number 7, with Gideon Graves, they had another fight in mind. Like he was supposed to turn into like a giant mech, like a.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like it wasn't.
Yeah.
When you think of when you play video games, when you get to the final boss, you're expecting like, a giant boss,
something massive, right?
Yeah, and that's where I think that's where the part of the movie I'm gonna call it failed, but should have done differently. And it could have been timing, it could have been budget, could have been a lot of things, but
what I read was that they had like that scene like completely scripted out. They're ready to film it, but they were working close with Brian Lee O'Malley, like the creator, and like he kind of vetoed it. Like he was just like, I don't really like this idea. I think we need to go a different way. And he changed. Yeah. Well, he didn't actively change it, but he worked with the screenwriters to sort of like come up with a different fight scene for it.
Okay, and that makes sense. Now here's what I love about the movie is Scott Pilgrim is a pretty relatable dude. He's a bit of a dweeb, but he's a likable dweeb. Right. And this is where I actually like the movie, where I think it has some heart to it. Is he's dating the younger girl, and then he meets Ramona. Right. And he's in an awkward position, like he knows this other girl really likes him, and he feels differently about this other, Ramona, and he's in a hard spot. He's afraid. I get that he's afraid to break up with her. I get that because he's such a nice kid. He doesn't have the heart in him to like tell this girl, hey, we need to break up, and he doesn't want to do it. I get that, and this is where I think the movie has some heart, that he really didn't want to hurt this girl. I mean, he does, but then at the end, the girl just says, hey, go get Ramona. You really like her, right? I mean, and that's what I really liked about the movie, is that there was some heart in there. He didn't like destroy this girl. you know, he didn't want to destroy this girl's life, and then at the end, she wanted to help him because, you know, she knew how he felt about this other girl, and I really liked that. You know, I won't call it a message, but I liked how that was executed. That's like the movie has some heart to it, and that's nice.
Right. I mean, I'm on the fence about that. Yeah, I'm on the fence about that ending, you know, because I know there was an alternate ending filmed where he actually does end up with knives.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so in the original story, he actually ends up with knives, and he and Ramona go their separate ways. Well, they filmed that and they showed it to some test audiences who were like, then that makes the whole Evil X's thing pointless. Because,
yeah.
You know, like he kind of like went through all this for nothing, and they didn't like the ending, so they changed it so that he ended up with Ramona. I'm happy with that ending, but at the same time, it falls like it rings a little untrue to me, considering like that Scott as a person, like you look at his own history. Yeah, he has a history of like just throwing girls to the side. You know what I mean? Because he dated his drummer. He dated I think he it's part of the backstory is that he dated that girl that works at the coffee shop. Like she was funny. Yeah, like he has a whole like
she had the potty mouth.
Yeah, like so he has like this history of like treating girls badly, and you know, for him to end up with like his dream girl and stuff like that, to me, like it kind of, there was just something about that where he goes through all this and he's not learned anything. So, and that could just be me like overthinking it. I still enjoy the ending, but something about that's just like, well, you know, like he should have grown from that experience, but he didn't.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's a fair assessment. I just think, like I said, I mean, I felt bad for Knives. I really did, and it's just like, I'm like, oh man, I didn't want to see this girl get like burned. You know, she didn't deserve to get burned.
Right.
Her heart was in the right place. His heart's in the right place, but just not. But they just, you know, he wasn't clicking with her like she was clicking with him.
She was too young for him anyway.
Yeah, that too. I mean, then again, remember this movie takes place in Canada.
Okay.
So. I don't know what the laws are over there or how. Yeah, let's not get into it. But I'm just saying the movie was in Canada, so
yeah. Well, they make a point. They're very good at making the point that they've never done anything. They've never even kissed or anything.
Yes.
So, I think that was smart.
Yes, very smart decision on everybody. You know, to do that. One thing I forgot to mention earlier. Back to the video game thing before we wrap this up here. For the reference, the Pac-Man story, the Pac-Man effect, which was kind of like his pickup line too, but
right.
the Pac-Man Puck-Man story is in fact true.
Yes.
It's not made up. That is a true story that, yes, Pac-Man was this hit game in Japan and it was going to be Puck-Man, and, you know, God, you know, if they brought Puck-Man to America, yes, I think it's an open opportunity for people to carve out the F word in there, and
I would have.
That is true. So for anyone who was wondering, is that really? It is true.
Cool.
And that game, by the way, that arcade game they were playing, that Ninja arcade, that game was awesome. By the way,
I want to play that game.
It's like a DDR thing, but with ninjas. I'm like, okay, that looks actually pretty cool there. I don't know if that's like a real game or if that was just a game they made for the movie, but that was cool. That's something to look up. But that was a cool game that they were playing there. And again, adding to the video game reference, that was a whole lot of fun right there.
Yeah, I agree. So before we wrap this up, man, I wanted to kind of just talk to the audience about our upcoming live stream with Daniel Pacina on August 20th.
Speaking of video games.
Yeah, speaking of video games and speaking of martial arts.
Yeah.
We've got a living legend, the original Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Reptile, Johnny Cage. He played them all. And he was super important in the creation of this game. We've got him in studio on Thursday, August 20th. You can
basically next week. By the time this comes out, it'll be next week.
Yeah, it'll be a week. So please join us. Ask your questions. You know, it's going to be a fun time.
Absolutely, I'm very much looking forward to it. So yeah, let us know in the comments. Like, have you seen Scott Pilgrim? If you have, what do you think? Let us know in the comments. You know, we definitely we do have more lookbacks we're gonna do. We have an Expendables look back that will be coming out at the same time as this. And we're going to be doing the 25th anniversary look back of the original Mortal Kombat movie next weekend. So yeah, more look backs to come. You know, martial arts and video game related. So this is going to be a really, this has turned out as a really fun month. And to anyone out there who came to our Off the Beaten podcast team up stream last Thursday, thank you for showing up and thank you for watching, because that was a great turnout. We cannot wait to have Dion back on the show. That was so much fun. It was our most viewed video that we ever put out, and we just want to thank you for everybody who helped make it such a great turnout. We are humble. Thank you.
Yes, and we still want to know, like, who you think was the best Joker. Was it Heath Ledger or was it Joaquin Phoenix? Drop us a line in the comments and let us know. We need to decide this for real.
Okay, so before we go, we please ask you to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and spread this shit like syphilis. So to you, I say, from Louisville to Syracuse, and to all of our friends and fans around the world at NerdCage Live, enjoy life, stay safe, and good night.
Sayonara.
Ooh, trying to get out of the NerdCage, are ya? Well, before you go, hit that subscribe button. And if you're really intrigued, ring that bell. Thank you for dropping by. Until next time, tell everyone you know about NerdCage Live!